Unemployment claims are back on the rise in Kentucky, and some are still waiting to receive the benefits. Find out how some are reacting. And the United States has eclipsed 100,000 deaths due to the coronavirus. Find out how new CD guidelines are aiming to help stop the spread.
And a cold front will move in tomorrow, bringing more showers and storms. But after that, we'll get a much-needed rain break. I'll have a look at that forecast right now at 4:30.
More than 800,000 Kentuckians have now applied for unemployment since the COVID-19 pandemic started. That includes more than 53,000 in just the week ending May 23rd. It is the first time the state has seen an increase in claims in more than 6 weeks, and still some people are waiting to receive benefits. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to one of them who fears the crisis will cause problems with her college education.
Caroline Hughes thought she had her post-high school plan all worked out. She worked at a daycare to save for college, but then the pandemic hit and she lost her job.
Feels like I've been preparing my whole life to go to school and pursue my dreams and inspire children, and I call every day and I can't talk to anyone, and I just feel very helpless.
She filed March 23rd, and 9 weeks later, still no benefits have arrived.
Absolutely. It feels very unfair, although I am very understanding, and I know that these times are so unprecedented and no one could have prepared for this.
Her story is like so many others we've heard. There's a dental hygienist who filed March 17th who still has not received any money, or the woman who is trying to care for an elderly father with no money. We tried to get an interview with the state official for this story, but we were not successful. We were told we simply needed to wait for the 5 o'clock briefing with Governor Andy Beshear, and there someone from Workforce Development will be available to answer our questions. Hughes says with the CARES money, she's out about $3,500.
And it says under investigation still, so it was really disappointing when the governor said that claims in March would be taken care of, and then mine wasn't. It was really disappointing.
She says she planned so long for this and believes she's doing everything right, only to have her plans derailed. In Anderson County, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
Kentucky's latest unemployment rate was a little more than 15% for the month of April. We should learn May's rate in mid-June. Families were reunited at Hazard Health and Rehabilitation Center this afternoon. The county judge executive, along with first responders and the city of Hazard, helped the center organize a parade where family members could drive by and see their loved ones. The center has been on lockdown for more than 2 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. While the hugs were still missed, Charlotte Thornsberry says the message was still received.
We've helped them make posters to tell their family members how they feel, and tell them, they love them, they want a hug, they miss them. Even that is just that little thing that connects a family to a resident.
The center also offers iPads and for FaceTime and other ways for the families to connect with their loved ones during this tough time.
Well, we've seen some sunshine today, we've seen some clouds, and we've seen some thunderstorms. It's kind of been like a rinse and repeat for the past couple of days. So one more day of the showers and storms before we get a much-needed rain break. But first, we're going to take you up to a few of those cameras. As you see, kind of that mixture of sun and clouds as we look at the National Weather Service camera in Jackson. They've had a storm pass through, maybe a couple have passed through the area, and you could see that there. Mostly just kind of heavy rain, maybe some lightning. None of the storms have been on the severe side, maybe a little bit strong at times, but as we look at pinpoint Doppler, stronger storm down into parts of East Tennessee. That'll move into Virginia. I don't think it'll move into any of our counties, though. Few scattered showers, few thunderstorms will continue this evening, but I really don't think we'll see any severe storms heading into the rest of the evening hours, but something, of course, we'll keep an eye on. The Cumberland Valley has been a little bit more gloomy today. They've seen the scattered showers and storms, so that's why they're a little bit on the cooler side. Lower 70s, London into Somerset. Upper 70s, lower 80s, even close to the mid 80s, especially way over into Prestonsburg and up into Huntington. Something we haven't talked about in a while, those dew points. Most of us into the upper 60s, lower 70s. So yeah, it feels a little bit on the muggy side out there, and we'll continue to see that really heading in to the next couple of weeks, but we will get a break from the humidity heading into the weekend. So tomorrow we do have a cold front, scattered showers and storms continue, but by the weekend, sunshine returns, cooler temperatures return. It is looking like a gorgeous weekend. I'll have more details on the cold front moving through and this weekend's forecast coming up in a little bit.
All right, thank you, Paige. The number of people in the U.S. who have died from the coronavirus has hit 100,000, and that number continues to rise as hundreds of thousands of Americans mourn those they've lost. There's a new push to make mask wearing mandatory. CBS's Naomi Ruckham reports from New York City, the epicenter of the nation's outbreak.
On the floor of the House of Representatives, Speaker Nancy Pelosi called for a moment of silence.
In remembrance of over 100,000 Americans who have passed away from the COVID-19 virus.
It took less than 4 months for COVID-19 to take more American lives than the Vietnam and Korean wars combined, and experts believe the real number is likely higher.
I cannot believe that this is what we are going through.
In Pennsylvania, State Representative Brian Sims took to Facebook Live to rail against Republican House leaders for allegedly concealing that a Republican lawmaker had tested positive.
How dare you? How dare you put our lives at risk? How dare you put our families at risk?
And the Speaker for the Illinois General Assembly has called on everyone who attended last weekend's special session to get tested or quarantined for 2 weeks. An employee at the arena where they met tested positive for the virus. Now, new research published in the journal Science warns 6 feet between individuals might not be enough, and that aerosol particles can accumulate and remain infectious in indoor air for hours. Increasing the flow of outdoor air and ensuring proper ventilation systems are some of the new CDC guidelines for offices that may be reopening. The CDC also wants employers to require workers to wear face coverings and prohibit touching of any kind. Today, New York's governor promised to sign an executive order authorizing businesses to deny entry to anyone not wearing a mask or face covering.
That store owner has a right to protect themselves. That store owner has a right to protect the other patrons in that store.
Today, the U.S. Department of Transportation announced it will distribute over 15 million cloth masks to America's transportation workforce, including people who work on subways, trains, and at airports. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
Well, back here in Kentucky, Pathfinders of Perry County recently received a grant from the Recreation Trail Program to help build more trails. One may wonder why and how this will benefit the community. Well, WYMT's Lacey Roberts spoke with a chairperson from Pathfinders to find out.
Here in Perry County, there are 6 miles of marked trails.
3.2 miles of those marked trails are part of the Recreational Trail Program's grant.
This time around, an 80-20 match, the grant worth up to $250,000.
Create more user-friendly trails that are a little bit lower in elevation for the general population.
Also easier access to the wooded trails.
It's awfully steep.
And proving a means for mountain biking.
There actually is a science.
As people access lower trails, helping them build up their fitness level.
There's plenty of room to social distance.
But these trails are more than what they seem.
It gave our local youth an opportunity to get out and work these trails. It created summer job opportunities for them. It gave them a chance to become invested in their community.
With COVID-19 restrictions, Brayman is working alone, but not entirely thanks to a separate grant for an excavator.
Put together, a better system for climbing and getting people up there to enjoy different stuff.
Making his workload a little easier.
Kind of building a bridge today to create recreational opportunities for the community, educational and, healthy options.
A small part of their mission for the community. In Perry County, Lacey Roberts, WYMT Mountain News.
Brayman says they will continue working on trails all summer. A Louisville police officer has been accused of sexually abusing a woman working at a gas station. 25-year-old Robert Neff was served with a summons yesterday following an investigation by the Louisville Metro Police Department's Public Integrity Unit. The complaint says he gave the victim an unwanted kiss, touched her chest area and the inside of her legs during different encounters in March. The complaint says Neff continued with his alleged actions after the victim told him she was not interested in a relationship. He now faces sexual abuse and harassment charges. President Trump tweeted it's, quote, a big day for social media and fairness ahead of an expected executive order to pare down legal protections for social media platforms. The president has long accused social media companies of bias against conservatives, but one company is pushing back. CBS's Natalie Brand is at the White House with more.
President Trump is expected to sign an executive order to curtail Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which shields social media companies from lawsuits over what their users post.
The president will take action to ensure that big tech does not stifle free speech and that the rights of all Americans to speak, tweet, and post are protected.
The president's dispute with Twitter escalated this week after the social media giant flagged one of his tweets for the first time for potentially misleading information about mail-in ballots. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey tweeted, "We'll continue to point out incorrect or disputed information about elections globally."
The president's executive order is assuming, or seems to be assuming, that social media companies are not acting in good faith.
George Washington University professor Lori Brainerd says the order could trigger legal challenges from Congress or the social media companies themselves.
The courts traditionally have upheld the social media companies' freedom in this area.
The issue could also launch a new debate in Congress, and leaders from both sides of the aisle are already weighing in.
I think Congress should actually have hearings.
What the president is doing is silly. It's a distraction.
Two Republican lawmakers took to Twitter to say they're working on legislation to potentially change the Communications Decency Act.
The bill is passed.
Also on Capitol Hill, the House passed a bill to extend the length of time small businesses have to use funds from the Paycheck Protection Program from 8 to now 24 weeks. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
House Democratic leaders withdrew a scheduled vote on the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. The president had threatened to veto the measure if passed. Coming up on Mountain News at 4:30, learn about some loans that could provide you substantial financial relief during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And a cold front will bring some cooler temperatures heading into the weekend. I'll have those details coming up.
When you see news happening,